Final game of the night, and it's sure to be a fiery one. Fury taking on IG. We've got two of the most professional Australian commentators there are. Emphasis on the Australian there. Xenox, welcome back from the break. We are going to be breaking down the last matchup of the day. Give me your overall thoughts here.
For the day or the matchup?
You know what? We'll go
probably
the
matchup would be.
No, the matchup would be the day. We won't worry about that.
We'll do the day after. So let's talk about the matchup coming. It's Fury versus IG. Talk about saving the best till last is IG. I think now that Elevate have copped the L, courtesy of the Last Dance, IG could be very much looking at that top spot position here in APAC South if they can get through Fury. Of course, for those unaware, Fury, formerly Q Confirm, very solid roster, and one that I've always had my eye on to do well, and yet, Rob, for whatever reason, they can never get it done.
Guys, I think if Xenox has got his eyes on someone to do well, I think that's generally a bad thing. I don't think that's really a nice note to make.
Look, just to go on from that point, I mean, for those who maybe haven't watched APAC South before or Oceanic Nationals, there seems to be a trend where anytime Xenox jumps on the bandwagon of a particular player or a particular team, within 6 months, they drop off the face of the earth. We don't hear from them anymore. So if you want your team to do well, you have to pray that Xenox.
I am 0-3 on the predictions today, just saying.
You know exactly who I'm talking about. And I'm not going to name names, but there have been multiple occasions where you have done a very good commentator.
Sorry, Gio.
Oh.
Yeah, Gio's just actually flat out not even part of APAC South anymore, and that's all courtesy to Xenox, I guess. That's just how it goes. We were going to go to the player cams and start breaking them down, but we'll just come back to us, unfortunately, for all the viewers at home. And Xenox, maybe you can give us some reasoning as to why you've had your eye on Fury for such a long time. You know, it sounds like you were really keeping a close eye on him, but
yeah, he has.
You know, has it turned out to anything? Have you been impressed with them by any chance in the last 12 months?
Well, I mean, obviously we're talking about Q Confirm, not Fury, the old Fury roster, right? So for Q Confirm, that I used to have my eye on, a team that I think that during the regular stages, what are you doing?
It's a bit of professionalism, guys. What do you reckon?
Throw my hands in the air. I'm the
What are you looking at?
During the regular stages, they did pretty well. I think it was stage 2 was one of their better performances, made playoffs, which I felt like when you look back at stage 1, kind of like, what was that, just outside of playoffs, then stage 2 made playoffs, you thought they're kind of climbing up, and in stage 3 kind of petered out a little bit during the regular stage and missed out altogether. So I think that for me was the issue with Q Confirm, was that they didn't keep just climbing that ladder. They ended up plateauing a little bit come stage 3, and I'm hoping for 2022 that top 4 is definitely available for them as a team now, obviously under Fury, and hopefully for their sake they can go back to the playoffs as they did in stage 2 and keep climbing as a team.
Guys, would you agree that the 2021 season was almost fruitful for Q Confirm, is the way that I think Xenox is trying to put that?
Yeah, probably fair to say. The storyline, though, for them, and that's what I'm looking at them for this year, is can they break through and actually have an impact? They have flourishes where they actually look like a really, really solid team, but for whatever reason, they have not been able to consistently maintain that, whether that be over the course of a couple of weeks or even the time span of a year. They're still yet to really crack into the top couple of spots and fight it out for a spot at the major or be a serious threat in terms of SI points. So that's what I'm looking at for QC. Can they take that next step? I don't think they're a team we're really worried about being relegated or they're on the back burner or anything like that, but they do really need to take that big next step up.
Oh, so we are talking about Fury now, are we?
Yeah, we're talking about Fury.
We're talking about Fury now.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that that's the direction we were headed in.
You clowns.
Yeah, I know, it doesn't stop here.
They are.
But this is, if I'm not mistaken, is this the only roster that has not seen a single roster change?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Xenox. How did you know that?
Well, I mean, I can actually see the names on the screen. I can be, yeah, okay, yeah, I know that name, yeah, and look, all 5. I know all 5 names.
Ah, good.
That's how I put it together. It wasn't Dev in the background going, yep.
Oh, guys, thoughts on this roster? I guess we've already talked about them enough, but they are a pretty consistent roster when they've got their consistent roster, if that makes sense. I think that this team is very much like Direwolves last year in the way that they kind of chopped and changed their roster a little bit throughout.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of looking at names, Spacehead's probably one that does stand out coming into the roster. And for me, it was probably one of the more standout additions to the team. Had a decent little run and, started to develop a little bit of form and experience at this sort of level of play. So keen to see him continue to grow, much like the rest of the team. Need to see a step up in performance. Yes, you can continue to just chug along in that sort of 4th to 5th position, but to make serious inroads internationally, you need to be gunning for the first couple of spots.
Now, as we start to turn our attention to a roster that's probably a little bit more formidable, something that we're really not sure what to expect, Xenox. I mean, maybe that's just me talking. Maybe you know exactly what to expect just because of how big your brain is. But this is like APAC's Frankenstein baby, I think.
I think that is actually the best way that you could phrase it, and it's why you're the best host in the world. If most teams have gone for 2 changes, IG's gone for 3. So this is Jigsaw, Nate, and Mentalist all coming in to join Hysterics and Speak Easy. At least for IG, Speak Easy is by far and away the best player in the region, so you still have that top player. For those unaware, Jigsaw, formerly of Team Bliss, was the MVP at the end of last year. I can't remember in OCN. But basically, I would almost say tied with Worthy for that. He was the Rookie of the Year. Thanks, Dev. But I would say for Jigsaw, he's your fragger. He's just going to go and he's going to click heads. And you're not going to want him to do anything else but click heads. Nate's an interesting one, actually, because from Order, he originally started as a substitute, filled in, and then suddenly everyone's like, oh, he's actually pretty good. We'll just keep him in the roster. Unfortunately, the rest of the team was not very good. And Nate's now found his way onto IG. This was probably the one pickup I was a little bit like, oh, that was a little bit left field. Probably didn't expect it. But Nate is a very, very solid player as well.
He is. He seems to be a pretty good backbone to a team. That kind of 4th, 5th player that really can do a fair bit of damage. Guys, because Xenox took up the entire graphic and the talk time, would you like to make any comments about IG?
Well, I guess a Guz fun fact. It's not not really that fun. So
Solo by Dev?
Don't get too excited. Oh,
it's sponsored by
I don't think so. It might be sponsored by the Match Tracker though. I'm not entirely sure. But this is actually the only team in APAC South that we have that includes cross-regional composition. Every other team is fulfilled by a single nation. So in IG, you have Mentalist from China, you have a couple of players from Singapore, and then Nate and Jig from Australia. So a bit of a mix and match there. So a lot of different ideas and metas probably going to be formed into one, and that's an exciting prospect for them and the region as a whole as well.
It certainly is. It's actually kind of groundbreaking, I think. I can't remember the last time we saw that many different nationalities, at least in APAC, filling one team. So let's have a look at the vetoes. Thank you very much for your fun fact, Guz. Sponsored by Xenox's Fun Fact, sponsored by the TM of the Match Tracker. But we do head to Bank for a second time tonight. We have missed out on Skyscraper twice as the last ban. We're not going to see it, Xenox, but do you have the stat tracker out in front of you?
No, I don't, but I can quickly get it up. It won't take long. Thanks, Dev, for that one, for always having that prepared. Obviously, there's not too much to go off for Fury/QC under the new organization. In fact, has his... I bet it's the old Fury. Yeah, it is. Yeah, awesome job, Dev. It's the old Fury on the match tracker.
You just thrown him under the bus. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. He's had nightmares about it. He's had very nightmares.
We can obviously have a look at IG Bank 3 and 8. Actually, their worst performing map. 45% attack and win rate, 40% defender win rate. That is the old IG though, right? So obviously new year, new team, 3 new players coming into it. So throw the stats out the window to sum it all up, Rob. We go to Bank for the second time tonight, and hopefully for IG's sake, with this roster, they can have a better time on it than the old roster.
Yeah, let's hope so. Guz, do we hold any kind of, do we hold any results from IG of last year and keep them into this year, or is it a completely fresh slate?
Nah, too much has changed. 3 roster changes, attack a repick. Bank's going to be a completely new ball game for them. From what we saw earlier today, Bank actually didn't play out all that differently. Repick offered some flexibility, particularly on some of the sites, so we'll have to see how they incorporate that. But looking at numbers, I mean, we're not really going to get a good read. So yeah, I actually agree with Jake, which is quite nice.
All right, well, it's I can just hear little giggles in the background. They just sent me off. So we'll here we go, the professionalism of this.
Come on, mate, you can do it.
We're going to leave these fools here and we're going to go across to the Bird and the Growler.
Is that what we are now? We are the bird and the growler?
Guess we are.
We're going to start getting into this game and start growling about this match, guys. This is a highly anticipated game. Everyone has been waiting to see what is going on with Invictus. They have such a high potential. Everyone's always known that. Everyone's been waiting to see what they're capable of. And now they've made 3 roster changes. What's going to happen? Bank is our battleground. It is IG versus their longtime rivals, Fury, with a fresh face.
Yeah, look, super excited for this one. A lot of expectations on the IG roster for sure. I've seen it classed as the super team of APAC coming into 2022. So, look, I think this is going to be a really fun affair. These teams actually ended up on equal same points for the entire year last year in APAC South, which is quite interesting to think about because obviously there's a lot of attention and focus that's put on Invictus Gaming in general. They did make it to a major, but at the end of the day, yeah, again, the Fury roster, XQ confirm, they really put up a good fight throughout last year, just narrowly missing out on a kind of top finishing position.
In fact, Invictus almost made it to the 6th Invitational, unfortunately losing the open qualifiers, or in fact, it was the closed qualifiers. They lost out in the grand final to Cyclops. Now we get into the game. A strange ban from Fury in the Nook. Not something you see very frequently, but Nook does have her uses here on Bank. Particularly, I'm thinking about those garage pushes. People like to put a camera in garage on the defensive side and prevent any attackers pushing in. And, well, Nook is the perfect counter to that. So now you ban out the Nook and you can put a camera in there without any second guesses.
Yeah, even other things like, you know, just quickly sneaking down some stairs early rounds, you know, Nook, great for that as well. Also brings the frag grenades to the table. Probably good to just keep that out of there. Look, it's a surprising ban though. We certainly don't see it happen or come through often. So, look, we'll see how that is adapted to, but so much to choose from on the attacker side. With attacker repick now, I think it kind of, while it's the same amount of options, it kind of makes your picks a lot more meaningful, so to speak.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of giddy. Like, I'm really excited. It has been a really long time since we've seen a mixed Oceanic and Southeast Asian roster, with the exception of Fnatic. But Fnatic's kind of a special case because they were playing in North anyway. But here we are. We've got 3 players from Southeast Asia and 2 players from Australia on this same roster, playing a full Southeast Asian squadron. Invictus, for the first time, picking up Australian players. I think a lot of people expected Jigsaw to end up somewhere. He was the Rookie of the Year in OCN. He's pretty phenomenal, his rise to power over the course of the year. But Nate, I don't think many people expected Nate, formerly from Order, to find his way onto another APAC South team.
Yeah, look, I think it's definitely a surprise, but at the same time, you know, Nate had some pretty big games for Order last year, and that can be significant when you're on a team that is struggling. Obviously, Order finished 7th place overall in APAC South, and even in OCN, you know, Nate had some pretty standout games, and at least from what I've heard, he's quite a vocal player. So sometimes you do need somebody that has that vocality that can stand up and potentially IGL or just be the hype guy. Sometimes that's also super important. So I think there's a lot of extra qualities in Nate that we don't often get to privy to for broadcasts. And look, you consider the caliber of players on IG, there's got to be something there, right?
I think the classic line that everyone's saying going into IG's debut is, all right, who's going to play support? Like, these are all nuts fraggers. This is a super team. So it's the question, who's going to take the diffuser? Who's going to be droning? Funnily enough, Speakeasy, the best player in APAC, I think that's almost not even arguable. He is nuts. He's the one holding the diffuser, and he's playing hard breach. Sure, I bet he's still going to top frag.
Definitely still good, but you can see there Nate also on the other hard breach role, so it looks like he's going to settle into more of that support. I dare say maybe Speakeasy more support flex, so he's got that freedom. I guess we'll see as the rounds progress, but either way, first minute in, IG certainly just taking their time to get set up around this site. Looks like they want to have a lot of window presence early and maybe just try and clear some of the utility off walls, clear out general utility on site, and push some Fury positions back out of that main area.
A keen eye from Jigsaw spotting out the Valkyrie camera at top square. A lot of info denied from Hajime. Jigsaw, the tip of the spear for Invictus. Honestly, still kind of unsettling to say that, to say jigsaw.ig. And yet here he is. Let's see if he can live up to all of the hype. ARX in hand, and Fury are just sitting pretty, waiting. Dark safely playing behind this deployable shield in the stock hallway. A breach on the wall attempted. The first one muted out. Nate goes down. I believe that was a repel on lobby. Invictus looking to fight back.
Yeah, really good opening pick here from Fury, and they are playing it very patient. They're not giving Invictus anything right here. No free picks. They're not trying to play aggressive early. They're putting that on Invictus to really push this progression. They need to make this attack keep moving. So look, I think that's a good call from Fury. That being said, I will quickly highlight it. They used both of their C4s. They're only available C4s for rotates. That's not good.
Ooh, wow. Okay, and geez, that's a good nade from Jigsaw. Speakeasy on the back of it, goes straight on in. The Yokais using their Sonic Burst to start disrupting some of these players as they move on forward, but there's just 30 seconds left. And this round is about to get explosive. Speakeasy and Jigsaw both find kills. A 4v2 now for Invictus Gaming. Producer Boom, though, can take down the star player from IG, but doesn't matter. They got 3 other star players ready to step up. Jigsaw, he also falls. Producer Boom's had a massive round so far, and he has to clutch the 1v2. Mentalist is there, and IG can steal away the first round.
Look, good job from IG to bring that one back, and look, they kind of put the foot on the pedal, won some really key gunfights, and that got them the access they needed to close that one out. So yeah, good on them to be able to bring that one back. It felt like it was firmly in Fury's hands for a good solid 2 minutes or so of that round. And you can see smiles all around, definitely feeling very comfortable. And I will say, on socials, these guys have certainly felt like they have gelled well as a team. Lots of jokes, lots of laughs happening nice and early into the season.
I gotta say, if any team has been tweeting at each other in the lead up to this season, it has absolutely been these guys. Like every second tweet's like, ha ha ha, Jigsaw. Wow, that is such a Jigsaw moment. Ha ha ha. What about you, Mentalist? Oh yeah, what a good Mentalist moment. I live for it. I think it's really funny. But I also think it's funny to make fun of as well. So credit to them. They seem to be really getting along. And look, that's important, right? Yeah, you're professional players and you need to be professional and have a professional relationship. But if you're going to be sitting playing video games together for countless hours and overcoming some serious stress and anxiety, you probably want to be doing it with some people that you can have a laugh with too.
Yeah, and look, I think it's such an important quality in teams that maybe is often, I don't know whether you'd say overlooked, maybe underappreciated, is like your team can be, I guess, statistically the best players, but if they're not having a laugh or having fun together, they're not going to be able to weather, the bad times. I think it's super important. We've seen it at major events, global events, teams having a laugh and that work really well together. They seem to be the ones that perform the best.
No doubt about it. Oh, I love seeing the 0 here. Speakeasy. Bringing that operator to the forefront. Okay, Mentalist, that was an interesting strategy there. What is this? What is that monstrosity? I have never seen Tachenka with any sight other than the one he used to. He used to only have one option for a sight, and now he's got all of them. What is that? That is. What is,
oh, that's
I can't get over that.
That's
yeah,
cool.
Look, yeah, that's one word for it. Just take it away from me. I can't retain my composure, mate.
All good. But either way, look, great for Producer Boom. Got the opening pick. Mentalist, a little aggressive early. Not sure if that was a misdrone or just backed himself in to take that gunfire. Either way, he is lost now, so that's a lot of utility lost on the Capital. Obviously, those bots, super helpful. But regardless, nice swift approach here from IG.
Oh, okay.
Nate already in baiting for this. Potentially going to stick it, Dev.
Is this even a bait? I don't think this is a bait, Raven. Red alert, this is not a bait. He goes in, gets the plant down. Like Colas can manage to find the covering player of Speakeasy, but Jigsaw's found himself with 2 players. And now a very tall task as Hysterics tries to cover, but he's got 3 players to worry about. Nate, 1 HP and a dream at winning out this 1 versus 4. He makes it a 1 versus 2, a 1 versus 1, but he cannot walk into the flames. He will die.
Oh,
I
Nate!
can't believe it. Nate, there is no way he made the 1v4.
Well, we talked a little bit about the surprise pickup of Nate and the justification, whatever you want to call it. Boy, oh boy, he really earned his dollars then. That was a really great clutch from Nate. Fury just really botching the retake attempt here, just throwing bodies at Nate. Didn't seem like there were many pre-fires coming out. I don't know. You can criticize it all you want, but regardless, Nate played that so well in such a confined position. He was literally on these stairs the entire time. All 4 kills.
It's unreal. I just cannot believe that. How did he win that? Literally 1 HP and a dream. A dream that he rode all the way to the finish line. 2-0 scoreline for Invictus. No doubt that should have been a Fury round. But IG, thanks to Nate, won it. There you go. I mean, that's worth the pickup in itself.
I think, was server hatch open? It wasn't, right?
No, it was fully reoed and everything. I think it was even, it wasn't electrical, but it was fully reoed.
Like, I guess a bit of an error there from Fury, because they still had Toxic Babes in the pocket. Just gas the stairs off and defuse, right? Like, I know they don't know his HP, but even still, like, I don't know. A lot of options that could have happened there for Fury. And look, in the heat of the moment, sometimes it is just chaos. But regardless, really great job from IG, really great job from Nate, I should say, to pull that one out, and they've got that 2-0 lead.
You could certainly say that round was a little bit of a throw. Just a little bit. A little bit of a throw from the old Fury. But credit where credit is due. Nate nailed it. Fury got a lot to think about after that one. Let's see if Invictus can ride the momentum of these first 2 round wins, as they have started very strong on their attack, and we expect this meta to really start being defined by attacks.
And already looks like there's about to be an opening engagement, and it is Jigsaw winning that very comfortably against like Hollis. Nice and early, 40 seconds in, they've got that opening pick. Another great start here for IG on this attack. And I think unfortunately for Fury, they're letting them build some momentum, and I get the feeling that this IG roster are going to be the kind of roster that once they're rolling, they could really get dangerous and hard to stop.
Nade coming out from Jigsaw as well to clear the Yokai drone. You just watch this guy's mechanics. It's why they picked him up. Playing an operator like Diana, you give him the license to go and kill. Obviously, he has his role, and he's been doing it just well, just perfectly. But at the end of the day, you pick up Jigsaw because you want someone who can thread the needle, who's got that golden mouse hand.
Oh, Mentalist. Unfortunately for him, losing out the gunfight to Hajime in through Janitors. And this is Fury doing a good job trying to fight back here on holding this vertical control. IG, though, immense in their pressure, managed to push forward and take out Spacehead. So 4 versus 3 man advantage, and still plenty of time on the board for IG.
Invictus as well have retained significant map control throughout the process. Still some castle barricades protect the remaining Fury members, particularly this one in the elevator hallway. Hysterix, not sure whether he still has his Gone 6, but he certainly has found, I think I was through the drone hole. Dark goes down, a nasty angle, and a bit of a tilter for Fury once again. IG, I mean, I have my doubts, but they are looking red hot. It's just Producer Boom left. In a 1 versus 4, what a tall order. And there's absolutely no way he can make this one work. IG have everything on their side.
Seems like it. And there it is. Speakeasy locks in that final kill for IG. They're on a roll now, Dev. 3-0 up. Everything going quite well for IG. Doing a really good job getting that early map pressure, or map control, I should say, in that round. And just never letting it slip at that point. Fury trying their best to fight up against this, but they haven't won a round yet, and that's going to have to start weighing on their minds a little bit.
I gotta say, I'm interested to get your take, Brandon. Like, coming into this stage, hearing that Invictus, the roster that had so much potential, dumped not only their new pickup of Joe, but their previous new pickup of Jordan, as well as the longest running member of the roster, Luna Metal, dropping 3 players to pick up Mentalist, who used to be on this roster, and 2 Aussie blokes. Like, did you believe that this was going to be the super team everyone was hyping it up to be?
I don't generally buy into stuff like that, but I definitely felt like they have a lot of potential. And I think it's always hard to judge. We've only seen 3 rounds. It's always hard to judge, even after a few games in this stage. You know, things can certainly change later in the play. But I feel like the composition so far is looking really good. They seem like they're playing off each other really well, which is super important. We've obviously seen some pretty big individual moments like Nate's 4K clutch. But yeah, look, I think it's a good thing to do sometimes to refresh a roster. I guess they might have felt that they were getting a little bit, I don't know whether tired's the right word, but you know, they were struggling towards the end of the year last year. They had still had some decent performances, often off the back of a massive speakeasy game. So I guess for IG, they felt the time was right to just do the big shake-up and try and build something for the future.
It's funny, I think on paper, like you look at these players, now, absolutely these are some of the best fraggers in the region. But I think it would be fair to have some doubts about how that would translate. We've seen super teams fail in the past. The most famous would be G2, and G2 have now canned most of their old super team roster, right? So I think it's fair to have doubts, but I certainly feel like those doubts are being put to bed right now with how well IG seem to be playing.
Definitely agree. I think a good example of the opposite is potentially Fury right here. Like, we'll see how the rest of this game plays out, but we talked about how they haven't really changed their roster at all. Yeah, they did all right last year. They finished 5th overall, but they definitely could have finished higher with just one simple victory. But maybe they needed a refresh. Like, maybe they haven't been able to identify what was going wrong for them last year. I don't know. Obviously, there's still a lot of the story to be told for us. But this could be a really good example, not just IG versus Fury, but big roster change versus not changing anything. I mean, it feels like stability should be favored, but I don't know. Maybe sometimes it's just not.
And this is an area where whatever language that your team comms in really comes into play, right? Fury comm in Thai and as to Elevate, and that means that there's a much smaller pool of players for them to choose from. Whereas IG, they're like, all right, we don't have any more Singaporean players we want to pick up. Let's pick up some Aussies. We all speak English, right? Like, even if the Singaporeans are technically speaking Singlish, it's just a dialect or an accent of the same language. And so all of these players can still communicate easily. Like, we're seeing Mag for Fnatic, like, learn Japanese so he can play with that roster, right? Like, it's crazy how limiting that can be for a team like Fury or Elevate.
Absolutely, but the action at hand here, Dev. 50 seconds to go, and right here, Fury are trying to stand up here on blue stairs, and it is M870 on the Thorn on the blue stairs. Nate traded back at least, but time really starting to play against Invictus on this one. They're going to have to try and flush out this position so their execute can get moving.
Got to win this one, Hysterics, and he backs himself in. Great use of the nade bait there, dealing with that troublesome shotgun player on the stairs, and now IG have 20 seconds to make this execute work. A nice nade to go through, put some pressure on Lycolis, who is the pivotal player here. Still one gas in hand, and he tosses it out, denying so much, as does that C4. The double for Hajime. Jigsaw's got to go massive, but he gets cleaned up. A huge round for Hajime on the mute.
Much better, well-rounded effort from Fury. They did a really good job stalling IG out. We talked about it. They only had about 45 seconds. They were still clearing out blue. It's really hard on a Locker's attack. You need to have a lot of time for baiting out. We saw it really come against IG at the end there. The Toxic Babe still in the pocket. The C4. Fury had everything they needed to throw at that denial. That was always going to be tough for IG to salvage that.
Well, nice to see Fury get on the board at least. It's something, right? It's not a lot, but it's something to work from. And it does mean that now Locker's CCTV, where they just won, is going to be locked for the remainder of this half. So they're going to have to show some metal on these other bomb sites. Next up, CEO Exec. The very first round that they played, they looked to start all right here, found the opening pick, but then Invictus sprung into action and found all kinds of picks, chasing down those Fury players. Let's see if Fury are going to do the same hold. It looks like for the most part they are. However, there is a Thorn in the lineup that we didn't see previously. Hajime also moving over to the Jaeger, so it's a bit of a shuffle all around. I think overall the intention behind the hold is the same. You can see here the shield in the stock hallway, but just some of the operator choices to enable that have varied.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether they kind of play this out slightly different. Like, obviously the setup fairly similar, but maybe the essence of the hold or the play style will be different up. But certainly hope there's been some kind of changes or some direction given, because IG in round one attacking this site, they looked really good, fairly clean. So hopefully Fury can kind of put some pressure back onto IG on this attack.
The main change I think that could be impactful here for Fury is that they didn't have the Jaeger previously. They were just defending that shield in the stock hallway using Bomai. So now you've got the double denial of projectiles. And that should keep that shield alive a little bit longer, really test IG's ability to clear all that util out. That said, Mentalist on the IQ, perfect operator to see exactly what util they're going to have to deal with and then plan accordingly.
Started to see actually quite a bit of IQ pick today. Haven't been keeping a full track of it, but I feel like I've seen more IQ than I would have expected. So that's always cool. Love IQ. Probably one of the first operators that I wouldn't say I mained, but actually played a lot of IQ and Twitch in particular. So loving seeing her kind of getting a bit more play right now. Do you reckon there's any particular reason behind that, Dev? Just so much utility to deal with, and it's kind of necessary to bring her back into meta, perhaps?
Look, theory crafting, attacker repicked means you have a bit more flexibility with your operators, right? Like it used to be, you don't know whether they're going to stack, you know, lots of util. You don't know what bomb site they're going to be. So you kind of always have to have, you know, 1/2 hard breaches, you know, some gadget denial, some projectile denial, some soft breach. Now you can be like, okay, we only need this much soft breach. We only need this much hard breach. So yeah, we can afford an IQ. Sure, let's go.
I like it. Yeah, I feel like that's fairly accurate. And it's cool. Again, talking about attack repick, feels like it brings the attack and attacker lineups in general more down to a finer science, which is great.
A moment of quiet here for several reasons, as Invictus start to shape up. But Jigsaw's the first to fall. Hysterics, the dangerous task ahead of him is to try and deal with Lobby, but
Jeez.
what a nade! That is phenomenal. Hajime goes down, and now Hysterics afforded some flexibility. Mentalist has also managed to repel inside a very dangerous position he has found, but Spacehead rips his head clean off. Now trying to deny an entrance with the smoke. 35 seconds left is plenty of time for Invictus to maintain and execute. That said, Producer Boom, ever the problem in Invictus' side. He might have the shotgun primary, but that secondary C75 is going to do plenty of work. Now just 2 players repelling on the windows for IG, and this is going to be a hopeless and desperate attempt. On for the spray is Spacehead. He finds the double, and Fury are marching their way towards a potential even half.
Doing much better now, Fury are. They strung together a couple of rounds, and they did a really good job just standing up against what IG were trying to throw at them. Besides that single frag grenade from Hysterics, that was completely unavoidable. But regardless, here it is again. Nice Kobe, all the way up through Banana into that front desk section. But regardless, Furious did such a great job holding the ground that they needed to do in that defense as compared to round 1.
Fury have managed to come back from that 0-3 deficit. 1 lockers that they previously lost, 1 CO that they previously lost. And now the ultimate test will be staff from open area that they, of course, previously lost. And it looks like for the most part, the operator lineup is the same. The main change here is that Producer Boom has moved off the Echo and onto the Pulse instead. I wonder what the idea is behind that.
Maybe just feeling like they want some extra info?
Like, the Echo is also info, it's just like a different form of info?
Yeah, I guess, like, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like the Yokais can be a little bit tricky sometimes to get through to maybe the time of round that you want them to be alive in, just because there's no invisibility cloak anymore. So in theory, they're a little bit easier to spot out, whereas the Pulse, it's safe, it's secure, right? Like, you're always going to have that scanner in their hands. It's more about your positioning. And maybe it's just to aid more verticality. They'll have more control over that info as opposed to the Yokais.
Could well be the case. IG have one last chance to come away from this half with an advantage. Otherwise, it'll be even going into their own defenses. You can see the IQ has been traded out in this round for a buck. Invictus knowing that they're going to need to engage a lot of vertical play to clear out tellers, archives, and put some pressure down onto the bomb site. So they want to make sure that they have as much soft breach as possible.
Yeah, definitely a good call. That buck is going to be very valuable if they do manage to get in and get this vertical control they need. Hysterics is trying to catch potentially an early rotate here off the side of Banana into lobby. It's always one of those plays that how long will you dedicate to this? Because, you know, it actually takes quite a bit of time to get off those windows and into the building. You don't necessarily want to leave that too late into the round. But either way, like Colas is going to stand up and he's going to take out Jigsaw from below. to get that opening pick for IG, and so close to getting Mentalist with that C4 to back it up.
Jigsaw's actually just had a rough last 2 rounds. The opening death both times. Fury still have presence upstairs here. Hajime in a very safe position, looking to take a gunfight and then back up through the hatch. He hears the telltale sound of that skeleton key ring out through the top floor and knows that Buck is near. That said, Mentalist, low HP, focuses on just opening up as much floor as possible instead of engaging any players. He clearly isn't aware of Hajime upstairs, who's now dropped below, but could easily get straight back up that hatch, thanks to the ability of Oryx.
Yeah, I thought it was such a cool play. I was really hoping he was just going to stay passive at the top of that hallway, because it really looked like IG, they looked comfortable. They looked like a team that was like, all right, top floor clear, let's do our thing. So Hajime certainly was in a position to make a big play. Certainly still can, and we'll see whether that plays out. 50 seconds to go now. IG really starting to make their push towards site. Haven't quite made it known exactly where the plant is going to be, but it looks like they're favoring the kitchen side here as they start to stack up around square.
Producer Boom spotted as he went downstairs as well, so Invictus will be very aware of a pulse lurking below and potential C4s as an eye plant in the late round. But this is such a pivotal round here for both teams. Can Fury even it up and potentially bring it back on their attack, or will Invictus have an advantage going into their defense? Hysterics with the adrenal surge to buff his team. 15 seconds on for the execute. Still 5 players from Fury are alive. Speakeasy looking to change that now as he finds a spray on through. Doesn't finish him off, but the rest of the team spring into action like Colas holding with the SMG-11, but Spacehead from Printer can support, and there is no hold in which IG can break on through. Fury managed to come away with half the rounds in the half.
Honestly, a great half in the end from Fury. I don't know, actually, maybe not great, but they did a really good job at rebounding from that. You know, they were down 3-0. It felt like it was going to be quite grim for them, especially after the round 2 throw that they had, that 1v4 loss. Certainly concerned that we were looking at a fairly dominant match, but no, they've done a really great job stepping it up from round 4 onwards. They strung together 3 defenses. I think in general, they just weren't giving IG some of the grounds that they had previously given them. You know, they were just doing smarter plays around holding map control.
And you look at, in fact, would you believe that Fury managed to get 5 out of the 6 opening picks in that half? That sounds ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Considering that it only ended up at 3-3. But yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think that Fury just played a lot more aggressively, just didn't give up for nothing as much as they did at the start of that first half. Let's also not forget that one of Invictus's round wins was a 1 versus 4 clutch from Nate, right? And that's 4 out of his 6 kills in the map so far. So if you kind of like what we did on map 1, right, where we said, okay, if you don't count Sappers, sorry, in the previous match with the Elevate versus Last Dance, if you don't really count Sappers clutch, what does the scoreboard look like? Well, if we did that game right now, Fury would be up 4-2.
Yep.
And that's kind of grim for Invictus.
It's a little bit, considering that it feels like their rounds were a little more... I don't know whether it was just because we're a bit hyped about the Invictus roster, but like it felt like their round wins were more significant. But I think at the end of the day, Fury felt like they started to really nail some fundamentals of team play in those last few rounds. And yeah, look, I think this is a really great initial test of the IG roster. They had a strong 3-0 lead. Now they've been equalized. Fury did a great job coming back. What does this IG roster have? They need to start to pull together as a team to kind of regain some momentum.
While we're all going to remember the big clutch rounds and the big 4Ks, it's worth just as much as a really boring round that plays out. Let's not forget that. Nice setup now from Hajime. In server, really putting the pressure on. And he's now going to get triple teamed. Oh no, they missed the shield. He managed to take down Speakeasy, but not out yet. Did that Yokai get taken out as well? I'm not quite sure. A really great play, though, from Mentalist, smoking off the dirt entry to prevent any teammates from coming to support and then taking down Hajime. Really well played. Now he's got his own Osa shield to use against the attack.
Yeah, I think a little unfortunate for Fury. I don't know whether unfortunate, sorry, is the right word. Maybe a bit of a misplay from Fury. They didn't really provide any backup for Hajime in that deep position. And also, especially once he died, there was no immediate attempt to kind of retake it from Fury. So as you can see, Mentalist now has a very strong position as it is in server. And with that shield, certainly allows him to really dictate a lot of things here. If he's not careful, though, Producer Boom is going to clear that with a Rotero drone. And our Mentalist has quite the dilemma. Does he try and just fight this position to his death? Or does he try and quickly sneak back to site?
This is where we start to see the cost of that play from Mentalist. He's only got one gas left, which he's now used, and he doesn't have, well, anything going for him. He's been taken out. Relying on the rest of IG to play aggressively off the side. Hysterics has managed to flank up square and find 2. Traded back by Dark, leaving IG in the advantage only because Jigsaw is still alive. Needs to be revived, however. Producer Boom struggling to breach this wall. As he doesn't have any Roteros left, he can fortunately shoot just enough to get in and start faking out a plant within a few moments. Jigsaw still bleeding out on the ground. 15 seconds left. Is there a yokai? Still on the board for Nate. Nate goes for the spray, and it looks like he might be able to deny the plant. 9 seconds left. Still a 2 versus 2. Nate just gonna play time. Producer Boom has to find the yokai. He does! And now with no time left, IG have no choice but to peek. It is now a 1 versus 2 on the plants, and Nate on the long angle manages to nail both kills with the pistol.
Very close round in the end, but really well played from IG and really well played from Nate again, really just spacing out the use of the yokai and keeping it safe for as long as possible. Provided enough of a nuisance where Fury couldn't push that into that post-plant situation. So that's a really important one for IG off the back of the 3-round streak we saw from Fury.
Yeah, wow. IG, I can't believe that they won that round, to be honest. Like, it looked like so many things were going right for Fury. Every step along the way, though, it looked like Invictus took a big risk, made a big play. But the reward wasn't necessarily as big as it perhaps immediately saw. Like, let's talk about that play from Mentalist, smoking off dirt and then retaking server. Yeah, that was very cool. But did it really make that much difference? He wasted all of his utility and eventually died anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely could have, I think, cost IG that round. Plays a very important role as the smoke in terms of denying plants or even just denying time in general. You could say he denied time of control of server, because if he didn't rush that position, Fury would have had a lot longer, to set up their plant and try and, make that plant just more comfortably happen. Because at the end of the day, they had to do a really rushed kind of plant bait game. And as you saw, Nate did a really great job of using his yokais, his utility. IG in general did a really great job of just holding that one off. So I think props to IG in general. They made some really big, important decisions in that round that ultimately did lead to them winning it. Yeah, some of them were a little bit risky, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to take that. And Fury, they're probably going to feel like that one slipped, but look, it's 4-3. There's still, a lot of this game to play. Fury can bring this one back.
I'm reloading.
Yes, certainly.
Swapping mags. Putting on a little show.
For Fury now, though, yes, like you said, they can bring this back. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. We have really only had a taste of their attack so far, though, and there's still a lot more to go. Burning all of the Wamai magnets, though, it looks like a very similar setup from IG from what we saw from Fury. It looks like Fury know exactly how to deal with it.
You can see, too, a lot of pressure there around stock, stacked up outside the window. Definitely wanting to get this control early, but again, IG doing a really good job holding this one off. I think for Fury, they just need to be patient and not rush this too quickly, because otherwise IG will, of course, be able to capitalize, get those opening picks. That being said, Speakeasy has found that opening pick onto Dark. That is the thinker off the board. And right now, Fury certainly struggling to get this map control.
Speakeasy looking to retake. Once again, aggress. About to find an aid coming his direction, potentially, though. Oh, and it does. However, it does not take out his shield, nor the player behind it. Another magnet to assist Speakeasy means that, well, doesn't look like Fury is going to flush out that position anytime soon.
starting to get very concerning for Fury 2. Down into the last 50 seconds. At least they're getting this breach open into the main office. And they've managed to find a pick back, so maybe this is the opening that they need. But again, time starting to not be on their side. IG having some great positions still in and around site. So this is certainly some pressure onto the attacking side of Fury.
Lycolis is so close to making an entry here. Now that Hysterics has gone down, it's all set up for him to do so. He doesn't realize, perhaps, the Mentalist is on the long angle. He gets the better of him. How does he manage that? Now Jigsaw and Speakeasy, two of the most hyped up players on this roster, have got a clutch up. Jigsaw finds one. Going below now, but caught out. It's just Speakeasy left, and he has to find the player on the diffuser. He fakes it! No, he doesn't! My God! Lycolis baited me for a second there. He locks in that diffuser. Speakeasy's got to walk into a dead crossfire to win this one, but he's so damn good! Speakeasy! The 4K and the clutch! How does he get away with it?
That's 2 rounds now of IG bringing back some just, I don't know what you call them, impossible rounds. Clearly not impossible, but some really big clutches to be holding on to this one. They're extending their lead now to 5-3. And a little bit reminiscent of the first half. You know, IG got the first 3 in a row, and then Fury brought it back with 3 of their own. And now we've got 2 in a row of IG. It's starting to see a bit of a pattern here.
Yeah, look, certainly IG are known for their hero players. This is what you expect out of a super team. You got Nate getting a 1v4 clutch. You got Speakeasy doing whatever the hell that was. And you got Fury sitting back, scratching their head saying, hey guys, I thought we were meant to win that round.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Yeah. Unfortunately for them, they were meant to win that round, and they haven't been able to secure it. So stuff like this is really going to come back to cost them. And again, I kind of highlight, Fury haven't made a roster change since last year, and this is the kind of thing that kind of cost them their potential opportunity to be second in the overall league. So to put that in perspective, as Q confirmed, they finished in 5th on 32 points overall. So they had 10 regulation wins, 1 OT win. The rest was all just straight losses. If they had one more just normal win, even an extra OT win, they would have been second ahead of Chiefs for the entire season. So just small things for Fury. It's always been their issue. It still feels like it's going to be a pattern this year.
When we tell you that APAC South is the closest league in the world, we absolutely mean that. Like when there is only 2 points between 5th place overall after a whole year of matches and 2nd place. That just, I mean, that tells you, doesn't it? And when you've got players like, I mean, some of the players in the server right now are the best in APAC. And that's what you're looking at right now. And I'm not talking about like top 20. I'm talking about top 5 best in APAC right here in the server. Really showing what they're worth. Fury, though, struggling to make anything stick. I don't know what that was there, but Producer Boom nearly lost his life for it.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Certainly did. Fury, time to get their act together on some of these attacks. Certainly facing a lot of pressure from these IG defenses. I think a big standout for me in that last one was just some of the map control a little bit slow from Fury. Of course, they don't want to go too quick. It's always about finding that balance. You still have to do your attacks with pace. You know, you still have to obtain that map control and give yourself time to get set up. And I think that's definitely important in this site. They need to get in, clear out that top floor, start to get some vertical pressure so they can really start to get IG herded into one corner and get ready for that execute.
And here they come. Off goes the Adrenal Surge, and Fury start to march on forward. Looking to lifeline their way through. Spacehead finds the opening kill. Dark really keen to find something with this LMG. A player on the other side of the soft wall not keen to fight back just yet. Jigsaw on the long angle. Weaving back and forth now. Instead, Fury turn their attentions to the site and don't realize that Nate is there with a welcoming party. Speakeasy managed to get himself back in position for a 2K, a 3K. And he's just non-stop, this man. You can never count him out. You can never push him aside because he is always ready for you. Had your mate in a 1v3, caught in high def, 4K on camera. And well, a minute to go, but I don't think he's going to last that long.
Certainly got a massive task ahead of him. Speakeasy is still alive at that. Too many IG players still alive. 3 of them, in fact. He's going to hit the deck in Kitchen. It's only just a matter of time. And there it is. Jigsaw swings, gets the pick, and that is IG moving to match point.
And a well-deserved match point at that for Invictus. They had a slow second half of their first half, but since then it's been all smiles, as we can see on screen right now. Their energy cannot be understated. These guys have been really getting into it, and they are not having any of the shenanigans that Fury is trying to pull. Those rushes are going to be met with a nice cheeky 3K in a single mag from Speakeasy every day of the week.
Absolutely. And now they've given themselves that nice little buffer. They're on match point. They've locked in 1 point at that, of course, with that scoring system. But they've got 3 rounds to kind of weather any storm that Fury tries to summon up here. And they're down in this lockers defense. Now, look, this is the one that Fury kind of threw. Felt like that they would have been able to lock this one in a few rounds ago. So maybe that's some confidence for them to start to try and build a bit of a comeback.
You can stop work. Reinforce the ball!
At what point do we start speculating how IG are going to do across the year? Because you don't change 3 players out of the roster as strong as IG were last year, unless if you're gunning for championships, unless if you're gunning for majors, 6 invitational.
5 seconds to go.
And so it makes me wonder, what do we expect out of this team? Because we knew for damn sure that we weren't convinced going in straight away, and it was super team, but what does that really mean? Are we starting to live up to the hype now?
Certainly right, and it's the pressure that comes with, I guess, being that labelled super team, right? You've got to try and back it up day after day. This is only just one opponent in Fury. And look, Fury have put up some kind of a fight. They've certainly continued to struggle with a lot of the things that we've seen last year. So I'm looking forward to some of those matches where it feels like IG are going to be really well tested. But of course, they still need to lock this one in. Still just over 2 minutes on this round. That is match point here for IG. And Fury, of course, are going to be trying very hard to not let that happen. They've got some good map control above, so clearly a top-down push here. They're going to have to, of course, keep the pace up. It's quite a lot that's required in this attack. And last time they really got caught out because they had to try and go for that plant very late in the play.
Fury have made decent progress so far. The Ying is going to be the X factor, no doubt, this round. Opening up the hatch with the secondary hard breach is a nice touch. But the real creme de la creme comes from those Candelas and what Hajime may be able to achieve with them. Step 1, though, surely, would be dealing with Speakeasy, who's snaking his way up the blue stairs. The Uzi in hand. 50 caliber rounds in this tiny little gun. They pack a hell of a punch. And now he falls all the way back into server after that flash pushes him on back. He's about to feel even more pressure now that the server hatch is open as well.
By attackers.
Certainly is, and this is just good procedure here from IG and good shooting from Speakeasy, as you would come to expect. He's certainly creating a nuisance, and as we come down to this last minute, every second that ticks away of Fury not having server control, not trying to bait out this plant or doing anything towards getting a post-plant situation is counting into Invictus' favor. And Speakeasy aggressives up. Dev, he's ended on the double, but regardless, I feel like the damage is done.
Worth his weight in gold, Speakeasy, as he always is. Now it's going to be a desperate play from Hajime. With the Candelas, the gas also going to make this difficult for Fury. 3 versus 4 with 30 seconds left.
Spacehead certainly got a big task ahead of him trying to start to bait some of this util out. Of course, they don't have a lot of time in their hands, 20 seconds in fact. Mentalist still has a smoke, babe. This could be all over here, Dev.
Yeah, I mean, Hajime just tries to send it, but Jigsaw's watching for that one. It's also going to come down to Producer Boom, who IG are very, very aware of. Sneaking on through Garage, he will be met. Oh my god, the one tap from Jigsaw! Traded on back, but Producer Boom is done for. IG, in their first match with the new roster, they find themselves a 7-3 victory over Fury.
And look, as to be expected in the end, I feel like Fury did put up a good fight, but a couple of big rounds there that Fury let slip away. This gave IG the rope needed to be able to start to run away with it. And look at them, calm, composed, not too up and about. Big win for them regardless, and I think some pretty big expectations for this roster to carry throughout stage 1.
It became pretty clear on that defense half, though, that this was going to be a bit of a walk in the park for IG. A 7-3 is a comfortable win for them. And like you said, setting a lot of expectation and ramping up the anticipation for what we can expect out of Invictus with the new lineup, with this mixed Aussie and Southeast Asian roster they are bringing to the table. They are capable of all kinds of things, and, well, you got to start with just one foot before the other, and they've done exactly that.
They have, and look, it's not just that they had some really solid rounds as a team, they also had some solid rounds as individuals. Speakeasy stepping up, we saw Nate's clutch. It was absolutely unreal. They combined for quite an impressive performance. So like I said during the cast, I'm really excited to start to see them compete against some of the top teams in APAC South and see what they're like when they're kind of further challenged. I think that's going to be when we start to see what this roster is really made of.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that, well, all of the IG fans are going to be breathing a sigh of relief and getting very excited to see just what they're capable of. But for now, let's toss it back to the desk. And of course, our interviewee with one of the winners will be coming up very shortly as well.
I think we now know what to expect. There were a lot of question marks. Jeez, Xenox? Hello?
I just thought he was really bored.
The Xenox, are you there? I don't know. Xenox, are you currently in VMix? Yeah, I don't, there we go.
I don't know. That was absolutely strange because I could literally see the same thing that you were seeing as well, and I'm sitting here like, why is that showing? That was absolutely bizarre. I do apologize for everyone there, including you two, that you had to see that.
What are you apologizing for? That was a treat, mate. That was an absolute treat. Well, I was going to go to you first. I mean, we had a lot of question marks coming in with IG, not knowing what that roster was going to be like, but god damn, that is terrifying. Xenox.
Oh, sorry, to me.
Jeez, okay, maybe he isn't he? Check. Hello?
Look, honestly, it got off to a great start for IG first couple of rounds. And I thought, you know, maybe was this going to be a bit of a stomp and IG were really going to flex that firepower that they've been able to pick up over the offseason. But to Fury's credit, you know, they closed out the first half. 3-3, I think, on bank is fine. And you had yourselves a pretty decent second half brewing. But IG obviously just too strong in the end. And obviously, I think the theme today is all about tempering expectations. It's been said time and time again, a lot by myself, that we don't want to run away too much here, right? It's only one game. And obviously for IG's sake, more than really all of the other teams, they've changed more of their roster than any of the other teams. So while it's a really, really good first result, you do not want to get too carried away.
It's hard not to, isn't it, Guz? Well, I mean, maybe for you two it is. You're both.
You know, it takes a lot to impress me, Rob. But honestly, I think my biggest concern when I saw the roster for Invictus, and it's something that's going to play out over the course of the year, is how do you actually take these specific 5 players and mash them into a coherent team? Because they're all so strong in similar areas, and there's a lot of overlap, I feel, in terms of their strengths. So I'm keen to see when they take up, when they go against a really strong roster, do we start to see some of those maybe disadvantages of having such a frag-heavy team start to rip the team apart a little bit? Or are they able to out-frag and out-dominate opponents? Because that's what they did against Fury, right? They were able to execute plays, and they were just so damn sharp. They weren't losing any engagements, and that put themselves in such a great position. You had Speakeasy firing off like he always does. Jigsaw and Nate as well were piling up the kills. Will that continue, though, against stronger opponents? I don't know. And that's where I'm keen to see if Invictus actually start to show some resilience, or if they fall